only got one more little step before we button this little project up. So remember in the last video how I said I was going to do a little modification and put a permanent battery backup system in it? So let's build that right now. So in my previous video I showed you the little buck converter and the little lithium charger, and of course the lithium pack. So let's build this thing. So the first thing I need to do is get some wire. And I need to connect the output, because it's got a little arrow on the side. It's going that way. The little arrow is, so there's there's output and an input. So I'm going to attach the output of the buck converter to the input of the charger. So I just need some little wire, and then we'll solder them together. So I cut a little hunk of wire off, and I'm using 20 gauge. I'm going to split it apart. Movie director calling. You can tell it was a spam call or a telemarketer or something like that, because it wasn't a real person. Because usually a real person, they let it ring forever, and it'll go, I don't know how many rings, but then the phone will pick up thinking that it's you calling into the phone so you can get your voicemail or something like that. So we got positive and negative, so luckily they line up perfectly. I was just tinning the wires here so that they just reflow nicely to the two boards. Now we got the buck converter wired up. Now hook it up to the charger. Okay, that takes care of that. Now we'll hook up the lithium pack. So we'll take one wire at a time out, so we don't have any little fires or bombs or anything like that. Because this stuff is very, very fine wire. Tin him up. It's only a couple of strands on that little bugger. And then we'll take the board, get that pad ready. Get this one ready over here. We'll get all of them all ready. Okay. So now we'll hook up the positive. Need a little trimming. Just a tick long. And now we'll prep the negative side. So that is that. So now the next thing we got to do is we got to go inside the ball again and tap power into the main line, and then tap the output power into the battery backup wires. So let me disassemble this again, and we'll be right back. So now I got the rotating arm and the cover plate off now. So here's what we're looking at here now. Main power comes in here. There's a 3 terminal here. There's power and a ground essentially. So we're going to tap that. We're going to use that for a tap for the 9 volts for the buck converter. And then I think these 2 wires here are the battery backup, but I have to take this zip tie off to verify that. Okay, so on the bottom here, there's 2 wires coming from underneath, and they come up here on the edge of the board here, on this leading edge here, and that's the positive and negative wires for the battery compartment. So we're going to trace these wires out to see where they go on the board. So here's the main power from the positive side of the battery compartment, and the negative side is right alongside it. So right here, this is the backup power. So right here at the end of my finger, where the red wire and the black wire go, that's the battery backup. So we're going to tap into that, and then we're going to find which is the power and ground for the main power coming in. So that's easy enough to do. So I'll take some of this hot snot off, so I have access to the solder connections. So we'll get that old hot snot out of there. And it's just like any old hot snot, it turns yellow after a spell. So all that fancy hot glue that's all clear when it's brand new, it all turns yellow. So now we got that established. Now, from what I see out of observations, that this black wire is connected to this motor. So that's got to be a ground. But we'll verify that, because we're not going to guess. Because, this is not, mine. So, if I blow it up, I'll have to replace it with something. So I'll get my meter out here. Where'd it go? So that one don't measure voltage. I need to get my meter out. Where's my other meter? Hiding here somewhere. And then we'll plug the unit in. And it's not going to run because the safety switch is not engaged. So we'll hook up black probe to the brown. I mean black to black, and I have voltage on the terminal closest to the motor. And of course, the other terminal is ground. So I'll put this onto continuity. So the two terminals closest to the case are ground, and the one closest to the motor is main power. So that's good to know. So we'll do monkey see, monkey do, and we'll tap off that black line for ground. And then, of course, the other terminal for power. So we'll get another little chunk of wire here. And I'll kind of estimate where this stuff should go. So it should be about right. And then we'll strip them. Forgot to turn the recorder off. So now we'll go ahead and unplug this, because we don't want to be working on live equipment. In case something decides to go wacky or I get some kind of quiver. We'll go ahead and tin these. Nice. We'll do these two on the opposite end. Ready? Now we'll connect the power and the ground to the main power coming into the board. We'll put just a little bit of flux on. I'll have to change tips because this is a big joint. See, this is a BCF2. All these tips, all these various tips I have them all calibrated to this particular soldering station, this is why one of the reasons I got one of these little KSGER soldering stations. It's got the capability of, you can optimize your soldering tips, because what's nice about these tips is that the heating element and the thermocouple are built in to each tip. So when you look at these things, you see on the end here how it's got different bands. Well, one is the main power for the and ground for the heating element, and then you got the thermocouple line that tells the soldering station on how much power to pump into it. So these are very nice, stable tips to have. And when you get a brand new tip, you have to calibrate it. So I got a little thermocouple thermometer that you slam the tip in with solder, and then you can go ahead and follow the calibration on the soldering station. So that takes care of that connection. So here's how I got it in the board. Tied right into the main power coming in. That's the 9-volt line. Now we'll go ahead and connect the board. But first, what I want to do, because I got a little ahead of myself, I got to set the voltage. So all I'm going to do is just bump one line off. I'll make it easier on myself and take them both off. So we get that out of the way. And then we'll solder this buck converter in. So we got power and ground. Make sure I got the polarity right. So now I have the board connected. We got the polarity right. And I'll have to change battery here, so I'll be right back. So now that we got the buck converter installed, we have the proper direction. There's an arrow on there. It shows you which is in and which is out. So now it's time to set the voltage. When you're going to take 5 volts, and 9 volts, and convert it to 5 volts. So we'll plug in here. And there's a little adjustment screw right down below. There's a little potentiometer right below that this square thing up here, the inductor. So we'll set that. So we'll get the meter back out. So right now we're at 8 volts. So we'll turn that down. So it's a little fumbly. I'll be right back when I got the voltage set. So now I have the voltage set, and we'll double check here. And we're at 5 volts. The operating current, operating voltage of the charge controller. So now we have that set. So now we can unplug this. Now we got to do one more little step. We got to set the charge current of the little charge controller here. So right now it's set for 1 amp, and I only want about 130 amps, I mean milliamps. So we got to change the resistor out. So we'll take a look at that under the microscope. And you can see I'm looking at this right where it says FC-96. To the left of it, that's the charge controlling resistor. So it says 122. So we're going to change that. And I need to look up what resistor I need to use. So I need 10 kilo ohm to replace that. So I got a little resistor book here of surface mount components, and we'll find a 10 kilo ohm. So here we have a 10 kilo ohm. And this is 0603 stuff. So we'll get a 10 kilo ohm resistor out. And there it is right here. And I'll have to change tips again. So there's our little resistor. And he's upside down. So 10 to the third power, or 10 and 3, is 10 kilo ohms. So we'll get him out of the way for a minute. And then we'll take the this guy off. He's right there. This is the stuff you got to do when you deal with surface mount stuff. Okay. Now we'll get the resistor. We'll get him on. Alrighty. So now I have the charge current set to about 130 milliamps, and this is about an 1100 milliamp pack, so it'll take a couple hours, but that's not a problem because it's only a backup battery. So since this thing will be on, or the globe itself will be on for the majority of its remaining life, however long that may be, who knows? It's already run 19 years. Maybe it'll run another 19 years. Who knows? So now we'll bring the board back in, the base plate here, and we'll connect the charge controller to the buck converter. So I'll see if I can solder them back on with just that tip. And of course the wires cross. That's nice. So we'll go ahead and turn them, put them back on. Actually, thinking about it, I think I'll use I'll get some heat shrink here, and so I can protect the boards here. So I can use that. We'll put this one on this one. And this board, something like this. we'll go ahead and finish our connections here. Ain't got enough mass. So that's protected. So now all we got to do now is run some wires from the backside of the charge controller here to the backup of the onboard backup system. So we'll kind of figure this will kind of go in like that, and then maybe we'll just have this like hanging out here, something like this. So we'll kind of guesstimate some more wire here. So we'll go from like over here. Maybe we can tuck that in the side like that, maybe. So we'll have something like over here to over here with a little extra. Now we'll tin the wires. And now I'll just tap into the board wires here. Put a little flux down. Give them a little trim. So now I'm tied into the onboard backup system. And now I just got to hook up to the charge controller output. Now we're tied in. So I got main power here coming in through here through this buck converter. So that's taking 9 volts, dropping it down to 5 volts. And that input goes into this charge controller for the lithium pack. And then this is one of them special lithium pack chargers where it's got the ports for the battery. So that's input and output. And then you got separate outputs for your load. And our load is our backup system. So now it's just a matter of tidying up and neat stuff like that. So now I'm going to just give this a little, just a tiny little shrink because this is the adhesive stuff. And I don't want that to melt onto the electronics. I just want to kiss it with the flame so it doesn't slide off. So now it's just a matter of tucking in the new components and stuff like that. So we'll kind of like massage it in there and stuff like that. So look, something just like this. So it's a sleeper mod. You'd never know that this was modified. So now the big test is, hope that it don't smoke, but if this doesn't light, then it's a success. So we'll plug in that main power here, and the LED is not lit. So it is receiving power, and of course there's lights on for the charge controller, but probably can see that from the cracks of the when the dome's on and all the other good stuff. So now it's just a matter of putting it back together. We'll put that little zip tie back on. So we'll get a little zip tie. Because we'll return it better than when it arrived. And it's already better with the new LEDs. Whew. Let's see how that top fits. Okay. No interference. That's good. No interference. That's good. Let's see if I can tuck that battery underneath somewhere. I don't think there's enough room for it though. Nah. Maybe we'll put it over here. Nope. Has to stay where it was. So let that stay right there, and we'll get some UV glue, and we'll just tack it to the side of the case here. Okay. Now we'll do a little something sort of the same with the wire here, so we can keep him out of the way. And we'll tidy this up a little bit. Now we'll put the unit back together. So first thing to go in is the switches, little push buttons here. That just sort of hangs out until you put the top on, and that captures it. Of course, one thing you want to be mindful of is that you don't catch one of these little LEDs and bend them, and then you'll have to play games of resetting it to line up with the little tunnels in the top case. Just like such. And we'll put the 4 screws in the back. And then from what I was reading, that some people were having a hard time trying to get this thing to pick up the caller IDs. So from what I read, is that one of the suggestions was to hook up the main batteries. So we have that. Then put the phone line in, and then hook up main power. So the only other thing I have to do, which I probably won't bother videotaping, because I'm going to have to zip tie stitch the globe to the base. So all I'm going to do is just pop a little hole here, pop a little hole here. So one here, there'll be a hole here, a hole here, and a hole here. And then there'll be matching holes on the globe. because that'll take the place of the missing tabs that are broken off. Because the one tab on the globe is broken off, and then there's two little short tabs that these two blowouts here used to capture. So that's how the top will be secured. So that's simple enough to do. So we'll go ahead and put the rotating arm back on. And it can only go on one way. And put the screws back in. So we'll turn counterclockwise until it drops in. And you'll feel it drop in. Just just touch it, just a little bit. So that's that. And then the globe here, because this is the tab that connects with the safety switch in there. So that's still intact. So it's just a matter of boom, 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 and boom, boom to secure the top, because this top, it's nothing to take it off now. So just in case it gets knocked over, it has a small chance on surviving. So we'll plug it in for the final test, and hopefully this will wrap up this video saga on JayKay18s Olympia Discovery Channel caller ID info globe. There you go. A success. And if you notice, in the middle here, the LED is not on. So that tells you that the backup system is receiving power and it's working. So now, anytime that this thing, goes offline, if he decides to put any messages on air or set the clock and stuff like that, it'll always retain that as long as the little lithium power in there stays alive. So I hope you enjoyed this little series of fixing up JayKay18's Discovery Olympia info globe. If you like this video, click the like icon. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because there might be other subjects that are as cool as this thing arriving in this wacky laboratory of mine. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.